Long ago, the people of Israel lived in a special land that God had given them. This land was beautiful and full of good things. God was their king, and he loved them very much. He gave them good rules to follow so that they could live happy and peaceful lives. He promised to always take care of them and protect them from their enemies. All he asked was for them to remember him and obey his ways. He wanted them to love him with all their hearts, and to be kind to one another, living as his special people in the world, showing everyone how good he was. But sometimes the people forgot about God. They started to look at the people who lived in the lands around them. These people prayed to statues made of wood and stone, which were not real gods at all. The Israelites began to think that maybe those gods were powerful too. They stopped listening to God's loving words and started to do things that made God sad. They did what was wrong in God's eyes, turning away from the one true God who had rescued them and given them everything they had. This was a very sad time, as they were choosing darkness over light. Because the people of Israel turned away from him, God could not protect them in the same way. He allowed their enemies, the Philistines, to become very strong. The Philistines were cruel rulers, and they made life very hard for the Israelites. For 40 long years, the people of Israel were in trouble. They were no longer free and happy in their own land. They were afraid of the Philistines and had to serve them. They must have felt lost and alone, wondering if God had forgotten the promises he had made to them so long ago. During this difficult time, the people began to remember God. They started to realize that their troubles began when they stopped following him. They needed a hero, someone who could save them from the Philistines and lead them back to a life of freedom. They needed a sign that God still loved them and had a plan to help them. Deep in their hearts they longed for a rescuer, and even though they had disobeyed, God was listening. He had not forgotten them, and he was about to do something truly amazing to show his love and power. In a small town called Zorah, there lived a good man from the tribe of Dan. His name was Manoah. He was a kind man who tried to follow God's ways, even when many people around him were not. Manoah had a wife whom he loved very much. They had a nice home and lived a quiet life, but there was a deep sadness in their hearts. They wanted to have a child more than anything else in the world. They dreamed of having a son or a daughter to love and care for, to fill their home with laughter and joy. Manoah's wife was a good and faithful woman. She prayed to God every day, sharing the secret wish of her heart. But as the years went by, no baby came. In those days, having children was seen as a very special blessing from God. Not being able to have a child was a heavy burden to carry. People might whisper and wonder why God had not blessed them with a family. This made Manoah's wife feel very lonely and sad. She watched other families with their children and wished she could have the same happiness. Even with their sadness, Manoah and his wife did not stop trusting in God. They continued to live their lives in a way that pleased him. They were patient and kind to each other, sharing their quiet sorrow together. They did not become angry or bitter, but held on to a small glimmer of hope that maybe one day, God would hear their prayers. They believed that God was good, even when they could not understand his plans. Their faith was like a small, steady light in the darkness that surrounded their people. They lived among the Israelites who were suffering under the Philistines. Every day they saw the trouble their people were in. They must have prayed not only for a child but also for God to send a rescuer for Israel. They longed for peace and freedom just like everyone else. Little did they know that their personal sadness and the nation's trouble were connected. God was about to answer both of their prayers in a way that was more wonderful and surprising than they could ever have imagined. Their quiet life was about to change forever. One sunny afternoon, while Manoah's wife was out in the field by herself, something incredible happened. A shining figure suddenly appeared right in front of her. This was no ordinary person. His face was bright and he looked very powerful and kind. It was an angel of the Lord, a special messenger sent directly from God in heaven. She was very surprised and a little scared as she had never seen anyone like him before. She stood still, her heart beating fast, wondering who this stranger was and why he had come to see her. The angel spoke to her with a gentle and calming voice. "I know that you have not been able to have any children," he said. His words showed that he knew the secret sadness she carried in her heart. Then he gave her the most amazing news she had ever heard. "You will become pregnant and give birth to a son." The woman could hardly believe her ears. A son! The dream she had held on to for so long was actually going to come true. Tears of joy must have filled her eyes as she listened to the angel's wonderful promise. But the angel had more to say. This was not going to be just any ordinary child. Your son will be special, the angel explained. He will be a Nazirite, set apart for God from the day he is born. The angel gave her important rules to follow. You must not drink any wine or eat any food that is considered unclean. And when your son is born, a razor must never be used on his head. His hair must never be cut. These were very specific instructions, showing that this child had a holy purpose. Then the angel told her the most important part of the message. He explained why her son had to be so special and why she had to follow these rules so carefully. He will be the one who will begin to save Israel from the power of the Philistines, the angel declared. Her son was not just an answer to her personal prayers, he was God's answer to the prayers of the entire nation. He was going to be the hero that everyone was waiting for. This news filled her with a sense of wonder and great responsibility. As soon as the angel left, the woman ran home as fast as her feet could carry her. Her heart was filled with a mix of excitement, awe, and a little bit of disbelief. She had to tell her husband, Manoah, what had just happened. When she found him, she was out of breath, but her face was shining with joy. "A man of God came to me," she exclaimed. "He looked like an angel of God. Very awesome. I didn't ask him where he was from, and he didn't tell me his name." She told Manoah every single word the angel had said. She explained the wonderful promise. They were going to have a son. She carefully repeated all the special instructions the angel had given her about not drinking wine and about how their son's hair must never be cut. She told him that their son would be a Nazirite, dedicated to God his whole life, and she shared the most amazing news of all, that their son would be the one to begin freeing Israel from the Philistines. Manoah listened carefully to every word, his heart filled with hope. He loved his wife and trusted her completely. Manoah was a man of great faith. He believed his wife's story, but he wanted to be sure he understood everything correctly. He wanted to hear the message for himself and make sure they did everything exactly as God wanted. So Manoah prayed to the Lord. He said, "O Lord, I beg you, let the man of God you sent to us come again. Let him come and teach us what we are to do for the boy who will be born." This was a beautiful prayer, showing that Manoah wanted to be a good father and follow God's plan perfectly. His prayer was not one of doubt, but one of humble seeking. He was not questioning if God could do this amazing thing, he was asking for guidance on how to do his part. He felt the great importance of this promised child and wanted to be prepared. He wanted to raise this special son in exactly the right way. Manoah's prayer showed his deep love for God and his desire to obey. He and his wife waited together, hoping and praying that God would answer and send the heavenly messenger to them once more. God heard Manoah's faithful prayer. A few days later, his wife was sitting in the field again, just as she had been before, and just as before, the angel of God appeared to her. She was so happy to see him again. This time she was not afraid. She knew this was God's answer to her husband's prayer. The angel waited patiently as she got up and ran to find Manoah. She didn't want him to miss this important meeting. She wanted him to see the angel with his own eyes and hear the instructions for himself. She called out to Manoah, her voice full of excitement. "He's here! The man who appeared to me the other day is back!" Manoah immediately stopped what he was doing and hurried back to the field with his wife. When he saw the shining figure, he was filled with awe. He walked up to the angel respectfully and asked, "Are you the man who spoke to my wife?" The angel looked at him with a kind expression and simply replied, "I am." Manoah's heart must have been pounding in his chest. Now that he was face to face with God's messenger, Manoah wanted to be certain about the instructions. He asked, "When your words come true, what will be the rule for the boy's life and work?" He wanted to hear the plan directly from the angel. He was ready to listen and obey every detail. This was his chance to learn how to raise this miracle child, this future hero of Israel. He looked at the angel, waiting for the important answer that would shape his family's future and the future of his people. The angel of the Lord looked at Manoah and repeated the same instructions he had given to his wife. He said, "Your wife must be careful to do everything I told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink any wine or other fermented drink, nor eat anything unclean. She must do everything I have commanded her." The angel made it clear that the responsibility started with the mother. By following these rules, she was preparing a special home for this child even before he was born. Manoah listened to the angel's words with deep concentration. He understood that these rules were very important. This was not just advice, it was a command from God. He and his wife were being trusted with a very special task. They were to be the parents of a child set apart for God's holy purpose. Manoah felt the weight of this honor and wanted to show his gratitude to the heavenly visitor. He did not yet fully realize that this was an angel. He thought he was a very special prophet, a man of God. In his heart, Manoah felt a great sense of hospitality. He wanted to do something kind for this messenger who had brought them such wonderful news. He said to the angel, "We would like you to stay a while so we can prepare a young goat for you to eat." In those times, sharing a meal was a way to show honor and friendship. Manoah was trying to be a good host, to thank this man for traveling to see them and for delivering God's life-changing message. It was a simple, heartfelt gesture of thankfulness for the incredible promise of a son. The angel's reply was mysterious and helped Manoah and his wife understand that he was no ordinary guest. The angel said, "Even if you detain me, I will not eat your food." This was a strange thing for a normal traveler to say. Then the angel gave him a very important piece of advice, "But if you prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord." The angel was gently turning Manoah's attention away from himself and pointing him back towards God. The thanks and the worship did not belong to the messenger, they belonged to God who sent the message. This was a key moment for Manoah. The visitor was teaching him a lesson about worship. The focus should always be on God, the source of all blessings. Manoah then grew more curious about who this visitor was. He asked a direct question. "What is your name? We want to know so that we can honor you when your words come true." He still thought he could give this man some special gift or recognition later. He wanted to know the name of the person who was the bearer of such good news, not yet understanding the visitor's true divine nature. The angel's answer to Manoah's question was even more mysterious and awe-inspiring. He replied, "Why do you ask my name? It is beyond understanding." In other words, his name was Wonderful. This was not a name a human being would have. It was a name that hinted at his divine nature, a name that pointed to the wonder of God himself. Manoah and his wife must have looked at each other, their minds trying to grasp the meaning of his words. They were beginning to realize that this was no ordinary prophet. This was someone sent directly from the presence of God. Manoah now understood what he needed to do. He took the young goat and a grain offering just as the angel had suggested. He found a large flat rock that could serve as an altar. With his wife standing beside him, he prepared to make an offering to the Lord. This was an act of worship, obedience, and faith. He was giving thanks to God for the unbelievable promise of a son and dedicating himself to following God's plan. He was putting his trust completely in the Lord who had sent this wonderful messenger. As Manoah lit the fire on the rock altar, something truly miraculous happened. As the flames leaped up from the rock towards the sky, the angel of the Lord did something astonishing. He went up into the sky in the flame of the altar. Manoah and his wife watched, their eyes wide with amazement and fear. The heavenly messenger ascended in the very fire of their sacrifice, showing them that he was one with the heavenly realm. They had been in the presence of someone holy, and he was now returning to God who had sent him. The sight was so overwhelming and powerful that Manoah and his wife fell on their faces to the ground. They were filled with a holy fear. In that moment, all doubt vanished. Manoah turned to his wife and said, "We have seen God. We are sure to die." In ancient times, people believed that no one could see God and live, but his wise wife comforted him. She said, "If the Lord had meant to kill us, he would not have accepted our offering. He would not have shown us all these wonderful things or told us such a promise." She knew that God's message was one of life, not death. Just as the angel had promised, Manoah's wife became pregnant. The long, sad years of waiting were finally over. The quiet hope they had held in their hearts was now growing into a joyful reality. Every day was filled with a new sense of wonder and thankfulness. They remembered the angel's instructions and followed them with great care. Manoah's wife was careful about everything she ate and drank, knowing that she was preparing a special home for God's chosen servant. Their home, once filled with sadness, was now filled with happy expectation. The time came and the woman gave birth to a baby boy. He was healthy and strong, a perfect gift from God. They looked at their son with tears of joy running down their faces. Their dream had come true. All the prayers they had ever prayed were answered in the face of this tiny child. They decided to name him Samson. This name sounded like the Hebrew word for sun, and he was like a ray of sunshine that had come to brighten their lives and the lives of their people after a long, dark night of suffering. God's blessing was on the boy from the very beginning. The Bible tells us that the child grew, and the Lord blessed him. This means that God was with Samson in a special way as he grew from a baby into a boy. He was strong and healthy, full of life and energy. Everyone who saw him could tell that there was something different about him. He was not just Manoah and his wife's son, he was God's chosen one, set apart for a great purpose that would change the history of his people. As Samson grew, something else began to happen. The Spirit of the Lord began to work in him. This was the power of God moving in his life, preparing him for the special job he was born to do. It was like a fire stirring inside him, getting him ready for the day when he would stand up to the Philistines. The promise of the angel was coming true, step by step. The hope that began with a visit from an angel was now a living, breathing boy who was getting stronger every day, ready to begin the work of saving Israel. The birth of Samson was a miracle that brought incredible hope to his parents and to the people of Israel. For Manoah and his wife, it was the beautiful end to a long and painful story of waiting. Their personal sadness was turned into the greatest joy they had ever known. They had a son to love and cherish, a son who was a direct gift from God. Their faith had been rewarded in a way they never could have imagined. They had prayed for a child, and God gave them not only a son but also a central part in his amazing plan of rescue. Samson's birth was also a powerful sign to all the Israelites. It was a message from God that he had not forgotten them. Even though they had disobeyed him for 40 years, God still loved them and was making a way to save them. The news of this miracle child, born to a woman who could not have children, must have spread through the land. It was a story of hope, a reminder that God can do impossible things. It gave the people a reason to believe that their time of suffering under the Philistines would one day come to an end. The story of Samson's birth teaches us how important it is to listen to God and trust his plans, even when we do not understand them. Manoah and his wife listened carefully to the angel and obeyed all the instructions they were given. Because of their faithfulness, they were able to be part of God's amazing work. They show us that when we trust God, He can use our lives for purposes far greater than we can see. Their simple obedience helped bring about the beginning of salvation for their entire nation. Samson was the hope of Israel, born to begin the fight for freedom. His life would be filled with amazing feats of strength and great battles, but it all started here with a faithful couple, a visit from an angel, and a miraculous promise. The story reminds us that God often works in quiet and unexpected ways. He can take a situation that seems hopeless, like a childless couple or an oppressed nation, and bring forth a wonderful new beginning. Samson's birth was a bright light of hope, showing that God is always at work, bringing His promises to pass.